dishes for the new concept of Vista, where basically we have tried to introduce different recipes from Amber, from Aquamar, from the new Polo, from dining room, from red ginger as well, which will be open for lunch, so we have a different recipe as well to try for our lunch menu. We have an opportunity to create new dishes, and we have what we say, I say in French, carte blanche, meaning that there is nothing really written there. We have some guidelines, but we have to develop everything when it comes to the Chinaware, when it comes to the product, when it comes to the recipes, the combination of the flavor. I think what is very exciting now is to do all the research on the site. So we go basically traveling around the world where we see a different inspiration of cooking, of ingredients, and that's the philosophy and the direction we're taking now, yeah.
I actually started traveling at a very young age. I have pictures of when I was a year old on the beach in the Keys in my little rubber duckies.
Curiosity is kind of the key to life, isn't it?
Deep curiosity, like keep finding out, see what's out there and keep going.
The child part of life.
Traveling has been part of my lifestyle for a long time. I spent 20 years in the Navy flying C-130s, and I've been to places all over the world. And I always wanted to go back to all these places. We're people watchers.
That's what we like to do, is see how the locals live.
Because we'd rather go eat where the locals want to eat, not necessarily where
The Michelin stars are.
Travel for me is enriching. I've always been interested in travel ever since I can remember as a little boy. I remember once my father bought me a map of the United States, and I circled areas I wanted to see. I knew that then I wanted to see the world.
Travel means to me expanding your knowledge, expanding your world, understanding how the world operates.
It's the connections with other people that we really appreciate. It just makes the whole world feel not so big.
Right.
It's just so amazing.
Yep. It's life-changing, really.
Wow. Oh my God, Oceania Cruises. Wow, 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 wow. Well, welcome everybody. I see we've already got a big old crowd joining in. And you know, I never even asked, is it Guilliaume? Is that right?
Yes, you got it bang on.
Well, welcome, Guilliaume. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
No, thank you for having me tonight. It's so nice to for you guys taking your time out of your evening. I really appreciate you coming along to learn a little bit more about Oceania.
Yes, I'm so excited for this evening. I've had a lot of folks reaching out going, oh, I can't believe you're having Oceania on tonight. We're so excited. First of all, we got Desiree, Jen, I got Norma, we got the Hamill family, we got Betty, we got Kaylin. Hey, everybody. How you doing? And Christy, thank you so much. Yes, it is our anniversary today. See, Guilliaume, I'm spending my anniversary with you.
Your wife is ecstatic about that.
She's in bed already. She's just laying down, relaxing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I really am excited, guys. And if you guys have questions, I see Desiree's already dropped a question in there. We'll get to that very shortly, Desiree. Great question, by the way. But I'm so excited about tonight because I have been getting a lot of feedback on TikTok, on YouTube, on social media. I am so tired of the nickel and diming. Seems like every day there's another fee. They're taking something away. There's another fee. They're taking something away. Well, you know what? Maybe it's time to expand your cruise horizons and start looking at other cruise lines that are, if not all inclusive, mostly inclusive, such as tonight, Guilliaume, Oceania Cruises, right?
It is. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we're we're kind of a bit of a unique cruise line in the marketplace as such. So we're not an all-inclusive cruise line, but that's by design. It mainly comes from the needs that our guests are looking for and the kind of the important inclusions for those guests. So essentially, you know, it's we kind of, as mentioned, we occupy that unique space within the market, within that old marketplace where, well, we were created 23 years ago, and we kind of wanted to disrupt the market in such a way where we were providing a little bit more than some of the premium lines out there. And you know, especially now, a lot of those premium lines have kind of maybe dialed back coming out of the pandemic.
Right.
We've kind of had the opposite, where we're actually wanting to include a little bit more. You know, again, bucking that trend and trying to disrupt a little bit.
I love it.
So it's kind of very much the Oceania way.
I love it. And we're going to be talking about that in just a second. And first of all, everybody, thank you for the anniversary wishes. You all are very kind. Rebecca and I, we had a nice lunch today, and we are going to be going to Epcot next Tuesday. We're going to spend a whole day at the Food and Wine Festival, so that will be our day. So thank you, everybody. You're all extremely kind. First of all, let's take a look at this fleet. You have some beautiful ships. What are we looking at? We're looking at right around 700 to 1,200 per ship.
Yeah,
right?
So we have essentially 3 different ships within the fleet. We're made up of 7 ships entirely. So we have 4 within what we call our regatta class. Those are 650 passenger vessels. So maybe smaller than what you're kind of used to over above some of those premium lines. So the regatta class is made up of the regatta, the insignia, the nautica, and the serena. And then we have 2 of our own custom built vessels, which are called the Marina and the Riviera. They're 1,250 passenger vessels. And we just actually recently took hold of our newest vessel, and that's the Oceania Vista, which is going to be part of the Allura class. And that's a 1,200 passenger vessel with around about 900 crew on board. So it kind of gives you an aspect of not only just the size of the vessels, but the level of service that you're going to get on board. So that's kind of one of the main mantras as well.
Wow. And just look at these ships. I love the picture from Shanghai. That's just so freaking amazing. You're in Portofino there, the picture from Scandinavia, gorgeous, going through the Panama Canal. You can just see, I mean, the other thing about having small ships, obviously, you can dock, you can go to places. So while you may go to Alaska, you're going to add some ports that, you know, other folks won't have. When you go to Australia, when you go to Scandinavia, you're able to go into some of these smaller ports, right?
Exactly. We're able to do things with these small vessels that the large ships can't do. So essentially, actually a really kind of good synergy with us is kind of river cruising. So essentially, you know, we're there to get you into the heart of the destination. And when we talk about the heart of the destination, it means like being right there and then on the spot.
Right.
You know, we'll you know, we're going into Portofino. So most of those large ships, when they're going into Portofino, they have to dock into Naples. We're able to get into Monte Carlo, whereas the big vessels, they have to dock in Villefranche, which is about 20 minutes down the road. So even though it's only just 20 minutes away, it still can make that difference to your day when you're visiting.
Sure.
And actually, it's a funny story. Like one of the main aspects of that came from our owner and founder, Frank Del Rio. He was in Monte Carlo. He was in the Casino Royale Square. It was in the middle of the afternoon. He was having a cocktail. If any of you have been in Monte Carlo, really that place becomes more vibrant in the evening. You know, that's when all the supercars start coming in. That's when everybody starts visiting the Casino Royale. And he looked at his watch at the middle of the afternoon. It was 4:00. He's like, hey, I guess I'm going to go back on board now because that's the time the ship's going to be leaving. Whereas one of the founding principles was like, well, heck, we want to be in the heart of the destination. But not only that, we want to be longer in the destination. So really, you know, when we're getting you into these niche little ports and these kind of boutique ports, we're wanting not only just to get you into these unique destinations, but we're wanting you to spend longer times there or potentially more overnights there. So it's really kind of thinking in that ethos about, you know, that curious traveler mindset, essentially.
Wow. And we have a couple of great questions already. I want to get through one of the big differentiators and one of the things that I'm really excited about tonight, and one of the things that we're talking about, that the nickel and diming of everybody else. And you guys have this program. This is now a permanent program as of right now. Simply More, this comes with every single cruise. So why don't you kind of walk us through what Simply More is?
So Simply More, it's a bit of a shift for us. So we originally had one offer in the marketplace that was there for around about 10 years. When we originally gave that offer, we were kind of the only player within that marketplace. And since that advent, there are obviously another few that have come in that marketplace. And as such, they've kind of had slightly more offerings in and above. So we wanted to maybe play a little bit of catch up, but not just catch up. We wanted to kind of get out ahead a little bit. So we created what we call Simply More. So essentially, as it suggests, there's more, and it's more simple, essentially.
It's a lot more simple for the travel agent, let me tell you.
Well, so first off, what we always include is our 2-for-1 cruise fares. Now, to let you know, that is from the brochure pricing. We will also include the round trip airfare, and that's from major gateways within North America. We will also include your airport transfers when you're arriving in with us. And additionally to that, we have built in a package where we're going to include shore excursions for you, or those experiences for you. We're going to also include our champagne, wine, beer, and all the soft drinks included in that sailing for you as well. Now, again, that drinks package that we're going to include is designed in a certain way because we want our clientele, it's built in a way where it's beer, wine, and champagne with lunch and dinner, essentially. Now, the reason it's been built in that sense is that generally the type of clientele that we have are usually out and about during the day. So if you're going to have a glass of wine or a glass of beer, generally more often than not, it's going to be at lunch or dinner time. So that's essentially how we built that in. There are options to go to all-inclusive if you so wish. We just ask you to pay an additional $30 per day per person if you do want to go to that all-inclusive. So if you are the type that needs that 2 o'clock in the afternoon martini, then boom, we've got that covered for you if it needs to be.
I'm not going to say I need it, but some people I know might.
Additionally to this as well, one of the unique portions of it, and really, Oceania is very renowned for our cuisine. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that and moving forward, but we want you to enjoy that culinary experience. And as such, every single one of our specialty restaurants are included in the cost of the sailing for you. So that all we ask for is simply the reservation. That's it. Otherwise, those specialty restaurants are always included. If you want to dine at our Polo Grill every night, steak and lobster every single night, if you so wish to do that, that's available to you at no additional charge.
Steak and lobster every single night. That would be a bit much, but you can do it. Okay.
You can do it if you so wish. Now, in addition to that as well, we wanted to include our Wi-Fi. Guests these days, they want to stay connected. They want to share those experiences. Yeah. So we have introduced 2 Wi-Fi connections in every single room. Those are, we're actually going to catch up the fleet as well. So with our new ship, the Vista, we have partnered with Skylink, and we are now going to have very fast streaming. So that's a real game changer within the cruising industry. And we're going to catch up the rest of the ships to that. So they're getting all retrofitted as well. Now, that's awesome. On this slide here, I know it's saying that there's a sale open from the 1st to the 30th. We actually, in addition to our Simply More offer, through the month of September, we're actually offering our Labor Day sale. So this little QR code here will be available to around about 60 different voyages where we're offering a 4-category upgrade. So if you've not experienced that at Oceania before, this is a great introduction to Oceania, where we're offering a number of different sailings, verandas at ocean view pricing. So that will be like a really great distinction for you to try Oceania for new. So there's a lot of nice voyages through the remainder of this year and into 2024 that you can definitely take advantage of with Walter here.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So again, you know, if you're complaining about nickel and diming, or you're starting to see that maybe you don't think the value of the cruise line that you've been going on all the time is quite there. I mean, basically, they're Oceania just saying, you know what, we're just going to wrap all this in. Our fares might appear to be a little higher in the beginning, but once you add in the specialty dining, the Wi-Fi, the drinks package, and everything else that gets you to this, and you know, everything else that goes with the cruise, you're going to find out, like we've been finding out as we're quoting clients, we're getting very close. You know, yes, Oceania usually is slightly more, a little bit more, but then you look at that value and you just take a look at one of those culinary videos and you're like, oh my God, I want to go on this ship. And then you got the small ship experience too.
You got it. And then the other thing you want to think about as well, Walter, here, it's not just kind of down to the brass tacks and the dollars and cents. What you want to think about as well is kind of those intangibles. So one, you're thinking about our cuisine. Two, you're thinking about the service levels that you're going to get. Three, remember, listen, you're only going to be sailing with up to 1,200 passengers. So when we're getting into the ports of call, you're off the ship within minutes. You're not one of these things where you're waiting with 2,000 other people to be able to get off the ship because, heck, they've got short excursions at XYZ time in the morning and everybody has to file off. We're doing it in a really relaxed and refined manner to be able for you to get access into those ports of call. So there's those small things that you might not think about. And really as well, it's kind of one of the things that I would, I've had so many conversations with different guests. And it's really funny. It's just the small things that make the big difference. And these small things keep adding up, and that experience becomes better and better and more refined. That's what keeps coming, our guests keeps coming back and back for. So service levels with our guests, with our crew, it's fantastic. It's unreal as well. Like, we do some great marketing videos, but it's not just gloss. There's real people behind those marketing videos. We had a video where we used to have one of our maitre d's, and this guy does a great speech within it, and he's talking about family. And within the video, you see people coming up and hugging him, and you're like, okay, cool. This is a little bit of the marketing. Now, I was able to go on a ship visit one time, and Stefan was there, and I've been doing presentations 2-3 times a week. I felt I knew the guy. The guy didn't know me from Adam. And I had to go up and introduce myself. I was like, listen, you know who I am, but I sure as hell know who you are because I see you 3 times a week. But one of the crazy things is after I introduced myself, great little conversation. And afterwards, all of a sudden these people come up, Stefan, how's it going? And giving him a hug. And we have guests that will actually try and figure out where some of our crew members are going so they can follow them from contract to contract because the levels of service and those relationships are true. It's a really funny thing. So yeah, it's these intangibles that you want to think about over and above. Maybe sometimes just looking at the brass tacks, but again, these small things add up and make a big difference to your vacation experience really at the end of the day.
100%. I mean, a ship is a ship, but it's the crew that keeps you coming back. And coming back. And boy, when you get service like that, wow. So Desiree has been waiting even before the show started. She popped in this really, really good question. Does Oceania have solo cabins? And if so, how much do they cost? Well, for the second half of that is going to depend on the sailing, obviously. But Guilliaume, do we have solo cabins?
We do, yes. So Oceania, it's been a growing trend within the marketplace. So solo travel is becoming more and more popular than ever before. As such, we kind of spotted that trend, and we've built it within to our newest vessel, the Oceania Vista. So we're the only company at sea to actually have a concierge veranda solo stateroom. Normally, with a lot of these concierge veranda. Now, this is important because a lot of the other companies out there, if you're in a solo stateroom, they're usually putting you in the inside of the ship. But no, we actually have a dedicated veranda for those solo guests on the Vista.
Wow.
When we launched the Vista just a couple of years back, those were probably one of the first staterooms to be going. And as such, we saw that popularity. And again, we're one of these lines that learn from trends within the marketplace. One of our philosophies is what we call kaizen, which is a Japanese philosophy of small and gradual improvement. So the gradual improvement that we wanted to make was that we actually went back to our regatta class ships, so the Regatta, the Insignia, the Nautica, and the Serena. And as such, we retrofitted all of our obstructed ocean view staterooms to be solo staterooms as well.
Oh.
The great thing about those staterooms is that originally they were designed for 2 people. So you're actually getting a double, you're essentially getting double the size of a normal solo stateroom because these were originally designed for 2 people. So these are probably some of the best solo staterooms you're going to see in the industry. So yes, it's a growing trend. Obviously, we're going to introduce that with our next vessel as well. So yeah, it's a growing segment that we're really trying to. I don't know, get more into it, yes.
That is so awesome that you're actually leaning into it. I love it. And did you hear what he said? They quote unquote retrofitted the older ship, but what he means by retrofitted, they just changed the category of the cabin. They didn't do anything to the cabin itself, so it was still a big double occupancy cabin. Wow.
Yeah, we can't change the blueprint on that ship, right? So it's the footprint still remains the same. But just right now for solo travelers, which is fantastic. I
love it. Thank you, Desiree, for the question. That's fabulous. Greg, I hope you're still with us. It sounds like you're on a cruise in Ketchikan. That's awesome. He's asking, are all of the 25 cruises released yet? We're looking for a European that stops in Bruges. They don't see any listed for 25 yet.
Not yet, no. They are in the works right now. So we have got some 25s out at the moment. We've got our around the world sailing for 2025 and our exotic sailings for 2025. We're about to launch our the remainder of 2025. So that'll be Alaska, South America, and Europe. So stay tuned essentially for the next month or so. Those are going to be out fairly soon. And then beyond that, we're going to introduce into the 2026 around the world sailing.
Nice.
So we're going to be launching sailings as far as 2026. And between you and I, it's going to be a bit different from what we've usually done. So again, stay tuned for that one. Unfortunately, I can't do any spoilers just yet.
Are we getting any? Oh, we're not going to get an exclusive. Come on, Guilliaume. We talked about this before the show. You promised. No, you promised.
Lips are sealed here. This is a teaser.
Oh, you just want to keep your job. I know. Darn it. Great question, Greg. Thank you so much. Have a great time. You're in Ketchikan. Alaska was actually the first place that we really started pricing Oceania against the traditional, like we usually lean into a couple of the cruise lines. And I was like, wow, look at this 11-nighter on, I think it was the Regatta.
Yep.
It compared so beautifully. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute, they can fly for free from, I think it was Phoenix to get there. Oh my goodness. So that's where we really started to lean in. And I said, man, there's something here with Oceania that we need to start showing to our clients. So.
And again, it's a bit of a unique experience of what we try and do up in Alaska. So my hometown is actually Vancouver, BC. And actually 2 months ago, I was just on an Alaska sailing, not with Oceania, but with somebody else. And it was interesting because one of the things was I was cruising out in Vancouver. Now, Vancouver, very large port. Having said that, when I've done ship tours or we've had consumers come on for the day for a luncheon, I usually just turn up to Vancouver Port. I walk straight onto the ship, and there we go. 3 weeks ago, I was just assuming exactly the same thing that we would do as normal. Wow. But it was a Saturday, and as such, there was 3 other vessels in. There must have been 10 to 15,000 different people there.
My God.
And that's a little bit of the Oceania difference there, because you'll never see Oceania in Vancouver over the course of the weekend. What we try and do is, even though we're going into some of these larger ports of call, we'll try and do it in a little bit more of an exclusive manner, where we're either the only ship docked in that port or one other. So essentially, it gives that easy access and that exclusivity into those destinations. So again, a little bit of a differentiator there that it's not going to be explained in the dollars and cents, but it's a little bit of a way that we try and build that exclusivity into that destination for you.
Nice. We're going to take one more question and right now, and then we're going to jump into some food. But he's asking, will there be direct flights from U.S. to port to ship? And I assume you're talking more like going into Europe, maybe going to other places. Do you try to do direct flights as much as possible?
So yeah, we work with all the major airlines. And again, it's part of the ethos that we have where we're wanting the guests to be in a relaxed state of mind while they travel. So with those major airlines that we're using, we're trying to give you the most direct route as possible. So generally from the East Coast, yes, I would say most of the flights are going to be direct. You know, obviously this year things are a little bit different. There's like obviously it's a very challenging year altogether for the air industry. So I mean, there has been occasions where guests are maybe doing a one layover. But generally, we're trying to make it as direct as possible. We've got a really fantastic air team that are dedicated just solely to our Oceania guests. And again, we're trying to do it in the most direct and relaxing way as possible for most of our guests.
Okay, great. Thank you. And there's a couple more questions there. Oh, go ahead.
Maybe just one thing just to cover that. If the air is that important to you, we have what we call a custom air program as well. So
that's right.
On a couple of different types of things. So say, for example, you're super elite status with XYZ airline and you want to continue with that, you can, for an additional fee, you can do what we call our custom air program. And you can outlay saying, hey, I need flight ABC 123 going from New York to Rome. So there's that option that you can build in, and Walter's there to assist that you're all the way through that process as well. So yeah,
a nice flexibility, really, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
nice
exactly. Yeah.
Built in. Wow. And of course, so we're almost halfway through the show already. And I would be remiss without reminding you guys, I am Walter, an independent travel advisor. And if you would like to talk further about Oceania, maybe start seeing where they go and what it's all about, certainly do reach out. Where's waltertravel.com, or links are in the description. You can set up a time on my online calendar and let's talk about Oceania. I can talk about Oceania all day long. Trust me, all day long. All right. So I'm going to jump in. We've got some food to talk about. I'm going to get back to your questions very shortly, but let us talk about some food and maybe show you a little bit of the ships, and then we'll get back to the questions. So you guys have just a ridiculously amazing culinary program.
We do, and one thing that we really do as well is kind of put our money where we put our money where our mouth is. So essentially, you know, if you're the type of person that's been on a cruise recently, and you know maybe the food's not as good as it used to be, maybe Oceania is the line you want to start thinking about. As mentioned before, all of our specialty restaurants are included in the cost of the sailing. Having said that, our founding principal and one of our founding partners was actually Monsieur Jacques Pepin. So Jacques Pepin, really famous kind of from that Julia Child era. He was our executive head chef. He oversaw our culinary program from the very get-go. So one of the things that Jacques says is if you have a lousy tomato, there's not very much you can do with it. So one of the things that we try and do is that we try and source locally as much as we can. As mentioned, we spend more dollars per head on our ingredients than any other cruise line out there. Because we're catering to so few as well, we're able to cook in a slightly different way. So we actually cook à la minute. So when the waiter takes your order and takes it into that kitchen, that's where and when it's being made. We're not one of these operations where we're trying to cater to 3,000 people. So for us to be ready at 6 p.m. at night, we need to start prepping at 6 a.m. in the morning. No, we are doing it there and then on the spot. Additionally to that as well, we have more chefs per head per person than any other cruise line out there. Just to give you a bit of an example of the numbers here, because you can see this fantastic food, but for the 1,200 passengers that we have on the Oceania Vista, we have about 900 crew, and about half of them are dedicated to the culinary side of things alone. So it shows you
900 crew for 1,200 people. Holy cow.
Exactly, right. Real true 1.5 to 1 guest to crew ratio.
Wow.
Additionally to that as well, now you might see it, you may not know, but it's, as the kids say these days, it's a bit of a weird flex. But we actually have more galley space per cruise line than any other cruise line out there. So, many of these large ships, even though they have like 27 different types of restaurants, they have to introduce quite a lot of different types of efficiencies. So even though you're getting all these different types of fare and all these different types of venue, they might be being served from these super galleys. So there may only be 2 or 3 mega galleys within that ship, and it has to get funneled up and delivered to these different areas. And it makes a difference in the taste. Whereas, as mentioned, we're making that meal for you there and then on the spot, but everything's made from scratch as well. So that goes in our pastries, our breads, our butters as well. Jacques being French, bread and butter is so important to the French that it's
put butter in everything.
Yeah, I mean, for example, we actually bring specially milled flour from the Anchot mill in Paris so that we can bring on and create these great patisseries for you in the morning. So again, it goes a long way into the level of the taste. You may not be buying a
Who else wants to get on a ship right now? Like, you don't have to hear anything else tonight. Who wants to get on a ship right now? Okay,
exactly. Well, you may not be going to buy a cruise just solely for the food on its own, but really, if you're coming on to Oceania for the first time, it's probably going to be the first thing you're going to be chatting to the caller. It's again, that culinary experience goes a long way. It's not just the food element, but again, going back into the relaxation side of things too. So, for example, our grand dining room, we don't have first and second seating dining. We have dine when you wish. So it goes back into the relaxation. You may be taking an excursion out to Rome, for example, and you're not getting back to the ship until 8 o'clock at night. So you're going to have to eat maybe at 8:30. The following day, because you've had that long day, maybe you want to eat at 5:30. So we have those options built into you. Here you can see these are some of our specialty restaurants on board. So we've got Ember, which is a new twist on American classics. Polo Grill, that is where you can have your 36-ounce porter steak if you so wish at no additional charge. Toscana's is one of our, now Toscana's is fantastic, I've got to tell you about this. Toscana's is our Italian fare, so think great pasta, great seafood. Our maitre d' will actually sit you at the table, and we have our maitre d' come up with a trolley of different balsamic vinegars and olive oils, so you can create your own combination, and that's how you start off your meal. So again,
do you have a ship leaving tomorrow from Miami that I could just run down? Right? Oh so, my God.
Yeah, the cuisine. Now, we are really renowned for our cuisine. We win awards year in, year out through the cruise industry. And absolutely, it's going to be one of those things that make a real big difference and create memories for you at the end of the day.
I tell you what, everybody can be like, hey, Walt, how were the excursions? I don't know. I never left the ship. I was sitting right outside the kitchen the whole time. This is freaking unbelievable. I mean, I knew some of this stuff, but wow, you're just like dropping so much amazing. And these spaces are just simply gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
And you know what? Just on the bottom corner there are Waves. Our Waves Grill is just that's our outside dining venue just for during the day. So this is where you can pick up like a burger or a hot dog, but do remember we're going to do it in the Oceania way. So for example, we'll do a surf and turf sandwich. So that is a little filet mignon with a lobster tail on it. Or if you want to go for your burger, you can have your Angus burger with black truffle sauce.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, and out there as well, we've got our milkshakes and malts. Again, that's small different. Dude, those milkshakes are just to die for. They're fantastic.
You are just killing me right now. Why didn't we do this on a ship, Guilliaume? Why did we not do this on a ship? God, I would have had all of this sitting right in front of us right now.
There we are.
Absolutely amazing. And this is what, I love good food, and I'll go to just a little food truck on the corner that's serving stuff, and I'll go to the high end. But, when you're saying that, look, every meal, everything that we do for you, we care about it. We're going to take our time. We really want you to enjoy it. I mean, you are speaking my language like all over tonight. This is amazing. Truly amazing. I'm going to jump into a couple other questions before we show you what the rooms look like. Wait till you see what the rooms look like, people. They're gorgeous, and the rest of the ship. We haven't even shown you anything else yet. We're just going here, but you guys are.
Who needs anything else after these restaurants, right?
Yeah, that's it. Just the food. I'm going to go back and play the food video again. Is what I'm going to do. Here, but wait a minute. I'm just going to put it back up here, and I've got. Now, will passport or pass card be needed? Well, if you're going out of the United States, obviously you need a passport. But can they use a pass card if it's a closed loop U.S.?
No, we're passport only.
Passport only. Okay.
Passports with us, yeah.
Great question. Thank you. And then this is a good one too. So how formal or relaxed are dress codes on the ship? Because it looks like it's super fancy, right? Tuxedos every night?
That's a great question. No. So there is a common misconception. Even though we're kind of trying to provide a luxury product, we're luxury unbundled, and relaxation goes a long way. So one of the things is we're country club casual. So we have no formal nights. We have no photographers. So you're not going to get pestered at dinner, or you're not going to get pestered coming off the gangway.
Hey. I hate that.
It goes back into the relaxation. So no formal nights. All we ask for is simply, not even a shirt and a jacket. Essentially, it's a polo shirt will do fine.
No shirt, really?
Maybe jeans, so maybe in our grand dining room. But if you need a night where you just need to relax, and you do want to just go in flip flops and shorts, you can go up to our terrace cafe. You can go dine al fresco at the back of the ship. And, one of the advents from, again, going back into restaurants is that our buffet, we were zero touch from the very get-go. We have our servers serve you from the buffet side of things. So it's not one of these ships where, somebody's picking up the soup ladle and then the next person's picking up the soup ladle.
Oh, that's the best. I hate self-service.
Yeah, it's a relaxed and informal environment. It's a social environment. So please, it's one thing that always surprises me is that you almost think that everybody's traveling in one large group together, because there's so many people with common interests on board our ship that there's these organic conversations that start up all over the ship. The ship's been kind of designed in a way as well to fit these great social areas, should I say. So yeah, I think you've got some information on that one as well, if I remember rightly, Waller.
On the what now?
Like some of our social areas on board, we've got.
I do have our social areas on board. Yeah. Hold on. The next slide. Well, first we're going to segue to this, because this is your new ship, right? The Allura.
We just opened it up to sales yesterday, so it's been a really exciting time for us. So this is a sister ship of the Vista. So again, another 1,200 passenger vessel, 900 crew on board. It's crazy. We just we have just with the Allura. It's crazy. We've only had the Vista out for a few months, but yet we're already starting to make other improvements and other modifications onto the Allura from we're learning. So you can see these great areas on board the top of the vessel there with our fantastic pool. It's funny, when I was on my very first Oceania cruise, I probably actually took a picture from a very similar vantage point. And the one thing that I was doing, I was sailing out in Miami. I was going on a sea day. I'd worked for another cruise line where you had to put your towel out at 7 a.m, or you were not getting one of those loungers. I took a photo from there because I couldn't believe how many loungers were available at 2 p.m. in the middle of a sea day. So again, square footage for you as a guest. There's no lineups on board. It's just that really great vibe when you can chill out essentially whilst you're on board, enjoy your vacation. You don't have to worry about putting your things out at stupid o'clock in the morning. It's you're on vacation, right? Who wants to get up at that time?
Yeah, who's the towel hog guy go?
Well, if we do have a pool hog guy and he decides to do that, one of the things that our crew are trained to do is that after 30 minutes, if they haven't showed up, we're just going to take it away.
No, you actually take it away?
We'll take it away and put it on one side so it's available. So, yeah.
So not only will you feed me, you will actually do what every other cruise line should do and clear the chairs. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
That's
so
it. I don't need to cruise anybody else.
right?
Use this one.
These small things that make a big difference.
There you go. And people, look at this spa in the lower right.
Yeah, so access,
goodness.
one of the things, again, talking about more of the inclusions, so access into our gym and fitness area is included. If you're in the concierge class, access into the spa is already included as well. So our concierge and above classes, essentially, they give you free access to the spa. I'm the guy that shaves and maybe puts some moisturizer on afterwards, and that's about the extent of my spa experience. So I wish I was a little bit more versed on this, but no, there's some pretty nice experiences. Great, great massages on board. This is our thalassotherapy pool. So it's a certain temperature, I believe, and yeah, it's another great place to relax whilst you're on board.
And you've been talking about how this is the sister to the Vista. Now here's the Vista.
So here. This is a Vista. Yeah, one of the things I was talking about is kind of our social areas on board. So, we have these great areas on board that are just giving you access to, so for example, martinis is always so popular just prior to dinner time. Everybody will rock up, they grab a great different type of martini. On the Vista, we actually introduced our mixology bar in there as well. So we've got some really nice different types of cocktails and very unique types of cocktails in there. One thing that I wanted to say, I'm sorry, I'm a kind of real geek when it comes to ships, but what it is that when we did the Vista, we actually put her out to sea trials last January. So that was January 2022. Okay. When we brought her back in, so essentially she was just a steel hull at that point. When we brought her back in from the sea trials, we actually spent a full 14 months fitting the interior of the ship. So we were bringing in artisan craftsmen, we were bringing in specialists. Honestly, I think there must be some mountain in Italy that's missing because of the amount of marble that we have on this vessel. So it took, we took our time to be able to design these elements. We have for example, we've got original artwork on board these vessels. We've got original Picassos, we've got original Dalis. Our guests, they're very much what I call doers. So even if you're inspired by some of that artwork, we have a small artist's loft on board our vessel with an artist in residence. So if you want to try your own dab hand at becoming your own Picasso, we've got these great artistic classes that are available to you so that you've got something to do whilst on board. The entertainment that we have on board as well. One of the things throughout the day, we've got what we call our edutainment. So we have these enrichment series. So these are great topical lectures that we have on board the ship during the day. In the evening time, we've got our classic types of West End style shows. If you're on the smaller vessels, it's going to be a little bit more lounge style in that instance. So, for example, we'll match the entertainment into the destination that we're going into. So if we're, say, sailing in South America, we may have tango dancers come on board. If we're sailing out of Venice, we may have a string quartet. So again, something that's kind of an interest in the destination for those guests to, again, our guests are what we call curious travelers. So they're always looking to learn, looking to find new things. And that really, again, fits within the kind of whole landscape of what we are on board.
Yeah. And somebody asked, is the ship brand new? Yes, that ship is brand spanking new. And the Allura was just announced.
Just launched in May for the Vista. The Allura is going to debut in 2025. So we actually just opened up the books for her for reservations as of yesterday. So the Vista and the Allura.
And Betty, he just talked about the entertainment on board, and both Vista and Allura especially have beautiful theaters on board. I'm limited to the amount of slides I can show, so I don't have pictures of that, but trust me, you can see them online. They're absolutely beautiful. Crazy. Now, Samuel's asking, now remember, there's not a whole lot of ship, but he's saying he's browsing cruises out of Miami. I don't see anything between May and October.
Yeah, so one thing, remember, we kind of follow the summer essentially. So what we tend to do is that generally during the summer months, you're more likely not going to see us in the Mediterranean. We're not one of these companies that are year-round in the Caribbean. So you'll find us in the Med. You'll find us doing the Baltic. We've got some really interesting sailings going around the British Isles. We've got sailings going into Iceland and Greenland. We have sailings going Canada, New England. And then we have sailings obviously on the other side into Alaska. So round about this time of year, so into the fall, we'll start moving our ships further south. So you'll generally tend to find maybe into November, December, January, February. That's when you'll find our Caribbean sailings. They're from the Caribbean. Again, we'll try and do the itinerary slightly differently. So, for example, when we're doing a Panama Canal sailing, we're not just going from Miami to San Diego. We might go Miami, cruise through the Caribbean, through the Panama, and then go down to Lima so that you can go through to see Machu Picchu. So again, we're kind of a little bit off the beaten path. Our ships are small enough, so we go down into South America. We can actually spend a full 7 days on the Amazon. We're one of the few companies that will circumnavigate Australia. We do the South Pacific. We'll do the Pearls of Southeast Asia. Again, another one of the few companies that will sail the west coast of Africa. We have this fantastic sailing that goes from Cape Town up to Paris, and that will go into Namibia. It'll get you into Senegal. It'll get you into Morocco, and it's just an absolutely fantastic type of sailing in there. So yeah.
So you really can't compare what you're doing to the mainstream cruise line. What did you say? You had 7 ships, 8 ships?
We only got 7 ships, yeah. So obviously some of those mainstream lines are able to pop a ship in the Caribbean year round, essentially, because they have the availability to do that. That's one thing. If you are booking with us, one thing to remember: work with Walter there, because typically we might book out a little bit further ahead. I mean, only with 650 passengers, it's only 300 couples in the world that will essentially fill that ship. So, if you're looking at plans right now, you kind of want to be looking at least in like 12 to 18 months into the future, just to kind of give you an idea there.
You do. You really do, because the ships are smaller. They're extremely popular. And like you said, the itineraries are different. So if you've been doing the Western Caribbean, you've been doing the Eastern Caribbean, maybe you did a little bit of the Southern Caribbean. This is a completely different Caribbean cruise. This is not like going on the mainstream cruise lines. You're going to, even if you go to the same island, you might actually dock somewhere where you've never been before, because your ship can get there. The big ones can't.
Exactly.
It's really interesting. And that Panama Canal story you just said, it's not just, okay, we're going through the canal, get off the ship. We're going to do something first. Then we're going to go through the canal, and then we're going to do something after we go through the canal. It's a little more fun that way. Now, the one thing that we have not shown everybody yet, we haven't shown you the rooms. Like, what do the staterooms look like? They're, as you can imagine, they are rather lovely. So let's go ahead and put these up on full screen here. This is a mixture of ships. This is not all from the same ship.
Yeah, a little bit of a mixture of everything there. So, obviously, depending on the size of the ship, it depends on the size of the staterooms. But, for example, one thing that we wanted to do is to build those vessels in what we call a residential design. So, we picked up a lot of elements that are close to the ocean themselves. So you'll tend to find like emeralds and silvers and sapphire type colors. So get great soft palettes. Again, we have our Kaizen philosophy. So even though our smaller ships are maybe slightly older than some of those more contemporary ships that you've seen out there, we have still invested hundreds of millions of dollars into those vessels. Every single one of our R-class ships were actually retrofitted in the last few years, and they've each received around about $125 million of investment.
Wow.
When we took them down to the studs, so that we can design them in a little bit more of a contemporary manner. Obviously, again, the blueprint and the footprint size of those ships have stayed the same, but the actual interiors of them have been completely revamped to match kind of closely to this here. So, just to kind of give you the aspect there. Again, great relaxation. Now, one thing I would definitely say is that if you're more of an adventurer type and you're looking more for the heart of the destinations, those smaller 650 passenger vessels is where you want to be. But if you're that type of person who really covets having that double vanity in the bathroom, then maybe let's have a look at those 1,250
Oh, I'm telling you, I cannot live without the double vanity. Don't get me started on that.
So yeah, so that's kind of give you a little bit of a heads up. Although those 1,200 passenger ships go into those unique destinations, they'll do it in a little bit of a different way with more comfort for you and a little bit more square footage overall for you there. But yeah, it's really entirely up to yourself and how you want to travel.
I love that we're talking about a big ship that's 1,200 people. That's the big ship.
That's big for us.
No, these are gorgeous. And so I'm going to show you, bring this up again, but that concierge veranda is basically what the veranda looks like. That's basically a suite on any other ship, any of your mainstream ship, but that's just basically a standard veranda, really.
Pretty much.
That's the concierge level.
Yep.
But on any mainstream ship, that would be a suite. You'd be paying for a suite price.
Fantastic.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And then one more thing that we want to show you is this, people. Look at this. This is 82 days. And typically when you see 82 days, maybe they're trying to cover a lot of the world and just kind of hopping around the world and trying to get. This is actually a rather small area of the world in 82 days.
And it kind of highlights again the uniqueness of what we try and do now. Really, in the last kind of 12 months, one of the things that we've really seen has been this trend towards longer sailing. Obviously, people not being able to travel as much within the last few years, people are coming back and they're looking at these longer itineraries more than ever before. The uniqueness of this type of itinerary, just to kind of give you an example as well, is that when we reach Mumbai in India, you actually have the opportunity to where you can leave the ship for a few days and we'll send you on a trip up to the kingdoms of Bhutan and Nepal. So you can actually go see the Himalayas with a cruise. So whoever thought you could be able to go see those mountains on a cruise ship. But yeah, we have that opportunity where you leave that ship, you go and do that extensive touring within, and then you can pick up the ship back in Cochin when you were heading back through there. You get into some really unique ports of call. We're going into Penang Island, which is the gastronomic capital of Malaysia. And again, the kind of pearls of Southeast Asia there for you. And then finishing up in Tokyo. It's just a very, very unique itinerary. Kind of one of those ones where, it drops the jaw. We could be here for hours talking about the itineraries alone.
We could.
We start as few as 7 days, so you don't necessarily have to go for 3.5 months here. So yeah, it's we have as few as 7 days. I would say our sweet spot is in around about that 10 to 12 day mark. But to give you an example, last year I was on a 10-day sailing that went round trip from Athens. We had 8 different ports. The reason we had 8 ports was because we actually spent 2 overnights. So we spent an overnight in Istanbul and we spent an overnight in Kushadasi. So that gave us the time to explore Istanbul at our ease. And then we also had the chance to be able to go see Ephesus and then further into Turkey as well. So it's, again, a relaxed kind of way to travel around. I was in Mykonos as well. In Santorini, should I say. And again, that was another prime example of how we do things differently. That day, granted, we were in with a few other ships, a few of them being European-based. And it was funny because I was at the top of Santorini, and you have to take a gondola to get back down to the ships. And I was just sitting in the restaurant there, sipping on a nice cool cocktail. And again, we hit 4:30 in the afternoon, and I was able to see about 4,000 Italians all fight with each other to try and get back down the gondola. Whereas I was like, I'm here until 10 o'clock at night. I can take my time. So
Nice.
And how we deliver slightly differently on these itineraries.
Well, and what's so different about this, folks, if you look at the itinerary, most itineraries from the mainstream cruise line, it's basically a straight line. We're basically going to get you, we're going to start here, we're going to end here, and we're going to try and move through and keep on going. Where at this one, there's a couple of straight lines, but then there's a whole bunch of zigzags, and we're going to come back and we're going to stay here. This is like true exploration. This is like true small ship. Yeah. We really want you to have an amazing time and see everything there is to see here versus let's get from point A to point B with some fun stops in between.
And the other thing, Walter, too, as well, is I just saw a question pop up there about if it's just this date for this 82-day sailing. Now, one thing I would say is if you are interested in a different type of sailing with Oceania Cruises and you spot a sailing that's pretty good, we don't always repeat these sailings. So, we're constantly changing, we're constantly introducing new ports. So if you do see something that comes up in 2020, late 24 or into 25 that really is unique to yourself, maybe don't rest on your laurels, because you never know, the following year we may not repeat that sailing. We don't repeat an awful lot of sailings. So yeah, just because we're consistently trying to innovate, we're consistently trying to be on the move. If there's that sailing that kind of hits those spots that you're looking to travel to, as I say, maybe don't rest in your laurels and have a good chat with Walter.
Yeah. I mean, this is another way that they're not the same as the other cruise lines. It's not the same, like, okay, in 2024, I'm going to get that cruise. 2025, I'm going to get that cruise. So they're going to come back to the Caribbean in 2024. They may hit some of the same islands, but it's going to be a different itinerary. It's going to be a different way of doing things. So I've noticed that year to year, it's like, okay, I don't know what we're going to get, because again, you've only got 7 ships. You've got a really great audience. You've got a great loyal audience, and they're not going to come back and do the same cruise every single year. They want you guys to come up with something different.
Yeah, and not all of us have got 82 days worth of vacations banked either. So the other thing that we do with this type of itinerary is that, what we'll generally tend to do is we'll launch it as what we call part of our grand voyage. We'll try and sell it like this for a few months. Afterwards, depending on how well that sailing is going, we'll actually start to break it up into smaller sections. So you might be able to do your Abu Dhabi over to Mumbai, and that's a one section. And then you might be able to do your Mumbai down to Kuala Lumpur, and that'll be another section. And then you can do that Kuala Lumpur through to the Philippines, and then finish up in Singapore. So that's kind of the way that we have that little bit of a mantra. So you don't need to bank up all those days, but you can do little sections of that as well.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, these are like what the ships are going to be that y'all are going to be sailing on. Just absolutely beautiful small ship. By the way, go ahead.
One thing I would say, as the technology within ships these days are fantastic. There's a new ship getting launched that has more people on it than the town I grew up in Scotland. And there's a cruise line for everybody out there. But one of the things for us is that, these ships, they're almost becoming the destination unto themselves. Whereas for our guests, the destination is that. And we want you to get there in a relaxed and a refined manner, where that you are interested in that destination. You're interested in exploring, and you're interested in experiencing that in a slightly different way. And really, these ships essentially are designed for you to go on board, have a great meal, have great levels of service. You go out and explore, and then because you've had that great service and that great relaxation whilst on board, you're recharged and you're able to go back at it the next day. We're kind of a boutique hotel at sea, essentially.
Basically, I mean, and I love that attitude. You guys are basically the hotel, and everybody can just get off their hotel at a different place and go and explore. And of course, as we talked about at the top of the show, Simply More. Simply More is a standard package. When you book a cruise with Oceania, this Simply More is your standard package. And as we talked about in the beginning, that little QR code is going to take you to a set of 60 sailing to have a special upgrade offer now. But the Simply More, that is right for now. That is a permanent special.
That's a permanent special with us. Yeah. And we're a very tailorable cruise line as well. So essentially, you work with Walter, he'll find the needs that that are important to you. And if you, again, as I say, if you're that type that needs that 2:00 in the afternoon cocktail, then cool, that's something that we can provide. If you're that type that has to fly with American Airlines, cool, that's something that we can provide. We're luxury, but we're unbundled. So if you need those extra elements, you can keep adding those in, or you can kind of tailor it to the needs that you want. So essentially, we're here for you to service you.
So much flexibility built into this. And that's what I love about it. It's not like, well, no, we got to follow our rules. These are the rules. That's all we got. Yeah, you can do this or this. And you're like, well, you can do, well, what do you got? What do you want to do? All right, let's see if we can figure out to make that work. You know, that's what I love about the attitude of your company.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, folks, oh my God, we have blown through an hour. If any of you all still have some questions that you'd like to ask Guilliaume while he's here, but I promised him I'd keep it to about an hour. You guys have been amazing. I hope you've learned something about Oceania. Maybe Oceania was one of those things you're like, oh, I don't want to look at them because I know it's going to be $100,000 just for me to get on the ship. No, it's not going to be $100,000 for you to get on the ship. No, it's not stuffy. Oh, and there's one thing that we didn't mention, because I have one client in particular who loves to smoke cigars. So can do you allow smoking on these ships?
We've got a smoking lounge on board. So yeah, if he so wishes to smoke a cigar, we got this actually on the Vista. We have a beautiful venue on the Vista. I couldn't believe it was a cigar lounge, in all honesty. I thought it was one of the other lounges, and I was like, I'm going to hang out here. But yeah, it's a really beautiful cigar lounge that we have on board.
Nice. So Stacy and Bill, if you're watching tonight, there you go.
Yeah,
there you
go. Then please work with Walter. You know, if you want to hold the sailing, generally most of our sailings, Walter will be able to hold that stateroom on that particular sailing without charge for a whole week. And you get that time within that week to kind of decide where you want to go. Our deposits are $500 per person, and on a flexible schedule there as well. So yeah.
Yep, and flights from about 50 cities in the United States included. Right. And if you're not in one of those states, I've been seeing it's only $99 each way. If you're not, so my goodness, people, the flights alone. That's why I say, you know, when if you want to get to the brass tacks of it, you start putting everything together on the other cruise line and put the flights in there and put the specialty dining, put everything in there. Now look at Oceania, and 9 times out of 10, Oceania is probably going to come out a little bit higher. But when you look at it, but I've had Oceania actually come out lower than some of the other big guys. And it's like because of the flights. It's like, oh, the flights are so much more cost effective.
Yeah, right now, yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting time within the airline industry. So yeah. KKW, how long does a person have to decide about this? If you're talking about the sale that he mentioned, the 60 sailings, you have until September 30th. Correct.
If you just want to think about a cruise, as he just said, I can put a stateroom on hold for you for 1 week while you think about it.
Exactly.
And then it would be $500 deposit per person, and then your standard payment rates and all of that good stuff. But the sale ends on September 30th. The Simply More, that's just there. That's with every sailing.
Listen, the last offer that we had was in place for like 10 years. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be around for a bit longer. So no worries about that.
It'll be around for a little while.
Yeah.
Well, Guilliaume, this was absolutely fabulous. I hope you all had a good time out there. I really enjoyed having you here, Guilliaume.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And thanks for everybody attending tonight. And great questions.
Yeah, thank you. Great questions. Great questions, everybody. Well, everybody out there, thank you so much for joining in. And again, if we can help you with your Oceania cruise, or if you have questions about Oceania, you want to see, well, what's this all about? Just reach out. We'll do a phone call. We'll do a video chat. We'll do some screen sharing, whatever. But just reach out. Where's waltertravel.com? Or if you go down in the description, there's a link there. You can actually go right to my calendar, set up a time that's convenient for you. I'll call you. We'll do a video chat, whatever you guys need. And let's make it happen, because this is an amazing cruise line. I'm going in January. We're setting it up right now. We're planning to be on the ship in January. And folks, you are going to see so much content come out of that cruise. It's not going to be funny.
Join Waller. Why not? Let's just join Waller. That'll be all the content.
Let's just join me. Yeah, when I figure it out, y'all should come with me. So Guilliaume, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks so much.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. right back here on YouTube. And, of course, on Sunday mornings, we're on TikTok at 10:30 a.m. Good night, everybody.